All right, we are here. And ignore the bar at the top because I have 4 games open. We're going to be doing this just in desktop instead of game capture as normal because I'm going to be flipping between this world, this world, this world, and this world to look at recipes. So, just so everybody knows what's going on, this is GT5u 09. This is GT6, obviously. This one is GT5. Greg's GT5, 0707 before Bloody got his hands on it. So this will be our very basic chemistry right here. And this is GTi. So what we're basically doing is going through the chemical reactor recipes and looking at what is on, what is off. Basically, we have 93 recipes in here, and we basically want to categorize what is GT5, what is GT5u, what are basic recipes, what are more advanced recipes, what do we want to change out for GT6 recipes maybe that we haven't already done. Before we actually get to the chemical reactor, though... Oh, and I have Tamara here, but she's, stuffing her face. So she'll be here to try to keep me straight in a little bit. But the first thing I want to look at is actually the distillation tower. So let's mark that over there so I have it. And let's bring up the distillation tower. So there are 12 recipes in here. We have refinery gas, we have oil, we have hydrocracked naphtha, we have wood gas, heavy oil, fermented biomass, steam cracked propane, calcium acetate solution, dilute sulfuric acid, steam cracked butane, water, to make distilled. I have no ungodly idea why in the hell they would throw this in here when you can do that in a distillery. There's no reason you'd build a one-high distillation tower to do that. That is just dumb. Steam cracked ethane, hydrocracked propane, wood vinegar, wood tar, hydrocracked butane, hydrocracked ethane, light oil, steam cracked naphtha, acetone, dilute hydrochloric acid, and charcoal byproducts, and then regular biomass and hydrocracked refinery gas. So I guess the first thing is let's bring up the original GT5 here. And let's look at the distillation tower in here, which means we're not checking at all because distillation tower didn't exist in the original GT5. Don't even have the stainless steel casings that it was made out of. For oil in here, where is heavy oil? There we go. So you have the distillery, and you could distill it into all the things. Hey, Chairman. But no distillation tower. So we aren't going to be able to look at GT5's distillation tower recipes. GT6, on the other hand, does have a distillation tower. If I can do it, I'm in cheat mode. Let's turn that off so I'm not doing this all the time, because that's going to get really annoying. Where is the... I want the recipe for... And I thought with this thing it would actually give it to me. But we can do it this way. So, oil and distillation tower. So, we have in this distillation tower 4 recipes. We have biomass times 2. This is IC2 and forestry biomass, because it's 1710. We have those things. Chairman, try all you like. You are not distracting me today. I'm staying focused. I got to get through this. We have very heavy oil, light oil, raw oil, and soul sand oil. Because in GT6, Greg considers soul sand oil different than raw oil, which is the way it was in GT5. Was soul sand just gave you oil. We can look at that in a minute. But there's none of the cracking stuff. We'll look at the cracking in a minute. But for biomass, it is 80 liters, and you get 20, 20, 4, and 50. So ethanol, glycerol, methane, and distilled water. Same for both of them. For oils, I've already gone through these before, but basically the heavier the oil is, the heavier materials you get out of it. So lubricant is higher in the heavy oils, the very heavy and the heavy oil, and the gases are lower. And when you get to the lighter stuff, the lubricant is lower and the gases are higher. And then soul sand is kind of like the heavy stuff. It's very heavy on lubricant. But I wanted to show this just because this is kind of where GTi is sort of going with distillation for oil. Because we have lubricant, the tar is for the solid outputs. There is naphtha, which isn't a thing in GT6, but it is a good thing to have. Can you synthesize oil? No. You can get it from soul sand, or you can get it from the springs. Gasoline, fuel oil, diesel. So very much like GT6. But now let's go look at the hard recipes. And this pack doesn't have the New Horizons thing in it. And hey, listen, the click's here, so that means Tamara's here. I can always tell with that damn click of hers. So very heavy oil, distillery, distillation tower. Okay. So we have 32 recipes in here, and we're going to go through them. For some reason, they actually had regular vinegar, which would give you acetic acid and water. So if you wanted to make, vinegar from grapes and stuff like that to get acetic acid, I guess you can do so. I don't know why you would add that recipe. You could actually distill creosote into lubricant. This is another recipe that absolutely does not need to be in a distillation tower because it's literally one thing. That's what a distillery is for. Put it in the distillery and fuck off out of the distillation tower. Seed oil to lubricant, again, doesn't belong there. Fish oil, fuck off. Crude oil, this is your raw oil. This is the GT. Oh God, I gotta open another Minecraft. I just thought about it. Hold on. GT508 will give us the other basic distillation tower recipes, since GT5 doesn't have them. So I guess I'm going to have 5 of them open. Okay, so crude oil, raw oil, sulfuric heavy, sulfuric light, sulfuric naphtha, sulfuric gas. That's your 4 things out of here. This then would have to be ran through each one of these through a chemical reactor with hydrogen to give you hydrogen sulfide and the light fuel, light gas, heavy fuel, and naphtha. And then you could use these to do whatever you were going to do. I have talked to Trins about doing a cracking unit, or not a cracking unit, a desulfonization unit like what GT6u added, which I refuse to load up GT6u. I have 5 games open, that's enough. Where we wouldn't have to do each one of them. Why am I in that one? I want in this one. We wouldn't have to do each one of these in a chemical reactor. We could do it in the desulfonization unit, which would be basically like a cracking unit. Holy crap, which game has the rain? Okay, it's not that one. It's not that one. It's not this one. It's you. Shut up. Holy crap. That was not okay. By the way, yes, I did put all these in peaceful, so I don't have to worry about... I haven't checked this one. Is this one in peaceful? No. Put that in peaceful. I might have blew up a reactor on purpose. Okay. So, back into here, now that I'm not getting my ears blown out by... Mother... I need to play with this pack and get the thing in here. Okay. Oil. Crude oil. That's what we were looking at. Rain, go away. Yes, exactly. Especially that loud. So this is something that should be on the hard setting. By the way, I talked to Trins about it. He explained what the settings are going to be. There's going to be a basic chemistry setting. There's going to be a normal setting. And then there's going to be a hard setting. And basically the normal setting is just going to be all the recipes that should be on no matter which of the other 2 you click. So you're going to have basic or hard chemistry. This one should be in the hard chemistry. And the reason why I say that is because if we come over here to GT508 and we look up distillation here, we do actually have the distillation tower because Bloody added one. where Greg had not yet. And if we look at that, we have 6 recipes. Very heavy oil is lubricant, fuel, methane, glycerol trinitrate, sulfuric acid. This is how it was in GT4, which is why he used these recipes in GT508. It's pretty much just a copy over. Again, the damn water to distilled water thing. And I know that's something Greg did. But I stand behind the fact that it's fucking stupid.
What is distilled water anyway?
Distilled water is something in GT5 at least. You could use it to keep, or you could use it to make IC2's coolant cheaper. It was its only real use. IC2 also uses distilled water for its reactor stuff, but for the main part, it's just used for that. In GT6, we use it to keep the boilers from calcifying. It's not a thing in GT5, and we have GT5 steam age in GTi, so it really wouldn't be a thing there. You would, and by the time you need distilled water for the coolant, you probably have a steam turbine made, which will make you distilled water. Mm-hmm. So this is,
a useless recipe?
Useless as fuck. Especially in a distillation tower. Now, when Greg added this to GT4, there was a reason for it. We didn't have a basic distillery. You only had the distillation tower. And so it needed to be in there. And the distillation tower was only, 5 high in GT4, where in GT5, it's like 7 or some high, and it takes all kinds of stainless steel. It was expensive in 4, too. But it was your only way of getting distilled water. So if you needed it for something, which again was just kind of IC2 coolant, you could do it, but you really didn't ever do it. Light oil, same thing. Just different amounts for the things. Biomass gave you fertilizer, biogas, and water. That is all you got for biomass. By the way, the fermented biomass thing, not a thing in any GregTech, only GT5u. I really need to get more RAM in order to be able to run multiple Minecraft instances as well as dev tools at a time. Hey Boris, how's it going? Yeah, I'm running 5 at the moment. It's a little ridiculous. And amazingly,
plus Discord,
plus OBS.
Yeah.
I'm only running at 88% of my memory, so I'm amazed. But the dev tools are horrible from what I've heard. Trins has the same issue with running his dev environment. I have 32 gigs of RAM. And by the way, Tamara, the picture I sent you just a little while ago, Crazy just woke up and seen it and rolled her eyes at me.
Oh, same reaction as me.
Oh, why the hell you guys don't find that as funny as I do? I thought it was hilarious. Anyways, inside jokes behind. Creosote to lubricant, again, should be in a distillery, especially since GT5 and GTi have multiple levels of distilleries. There's no reason that should be in a tower. And then we have heavy oil. And we have seed oil, fuck off. Natural gas to methane direct, no other recipes. for it, so it kind of shouldn't be here. Fish oil lubricant, that's why they're in GTi, but they shouldn't be. And then there's your regular oil one. And then your raw oil, which is same as crude oil. And then the biomass, this is the IC2 version. Same thing, except here you get wood pulp, where the other one you got fertilizer, because this is IC2. So therefore you get IC2 fertilizer out of it instead of wood pulp. Now, I want to go and look at this one. Well, let's look here. So in here we have biomass somewhere in one of these. There it is, biomass. So this is going off the wood pulp, ethanol, and water, which is... Oh, why did I close that out? Where's that? There it is. So that is this one, basically. 8 wood gas, a little bit of water. Or no, it's the other one because it has this one. Small wood, 60 ethanol, and 60 water. So what I would actually do in GTi, since we don't have 2 different ones, is leave this one the way it is. Leave it the forestry one. And then even though we really don't need it, maybe leave the fermented biomass, because we're going to get to talking about that in a minute. Where you can actually get... Oh, you don't actually even get wood gas out of this one. And see, the wood gas was an IC2 weird thing. But see, you get ethanol out of here. But you get carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, acetic acid, methanol, and see in the basic... I don't even know 100% if the fermented biomass should exist, but if it does, I would say change out like the ammonia and acetic acid, which you won't need, for like wood gas or maybe a little bit of something else. Same with the methanol. It really doesn't need to exist in the basic recipes. But maybe use that for wood gas, or you could always change this recipe to give a little bit of ethanol, a little bit less ethanol, and a little bit of wood gas, so you have the 2 of them. If you're wanting to go with just one of them, you would use a distillery, and then you could go from 40 biomass to 12 ethanol, and there should be there's not. And so that's kind of the issue when you got 3 different mods you're playing with. That's why I like the way Greg does it in GT6, to be honest, because he kind of puts everything into its own little place. So if we look at distillation tower recipe, I don't know why I changed this out. Both of your biomasses give exactly the same fucking thing. And it's 20 ethanol, 20 glycerol, 4 methane, and distilled water. Screw the wood gas crap. This to me is your basic biomass distillation. That's what I would do for the basic of basic.
By the way, I made a note for you.
What I forget already?
No. For trends.
Oh, okay.
Starting at 24 minutes for this biomass talk.
Okay, well, I'm sure he'll watch the whole thing eventually. Just, yeah. It's going to be long.
I can give him Secretary notes.
Okay. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. Most of these recipes are actually going to be out. So, like refinery gas, if we go back and look at GT508, the only thing you could do with refinery gas... wait a minute, you didn't even get refinery gas in this one, did you? You have natural gas. And the only thing you could do with that was turn it into methane. 64 to 120. It made extra methane out of it. So here, I would say the refinery gas, because you won't really need the butane or the propane or the ethane. Methane you can burn off. And helium you will need, which I guess you could do this if you're doing butane and propane out of oil for cracking, which is something we still need to get to looking at, and we'll get to that in GT6 again in a minute. But I would say the refinery gas, you probably don't need this much stuff in it. Or just leave it in there because you can burn pretty much everything off. The problem is the ethane. I don't know if he wants to add a second recipe for this, but ethane is just used to make ethylene, and that's it. This is a hard recipe. If you're going to do refinery gas, just give it ethylene for the basic recipe so you can make plastic out of it. Don't make them go through an extra step. The oil, like we said, this we've already gone through. That's going to stay the way it is. But this is the basic recipe, believe it or not, where you get all the things out of the oil and you don't really have to do a lot of cracking because you can use naphtha directly in a chemical reactor to make plastic. It's just air and naphtha make plastic. And I don't really know if that would fit into the refinery gas, because refinery gas is a gas and it's very light gas, basically. So I don't know that using it for the plastic. Okay, we're getting to the GT6 thing. We're going to look at it now. So the cracking in GT6 is very basic. It's not something I really like. I prefer more the GT5 type, but I do like the outputs, at least for a basic level. The reason why I don't like it is because he only cracks a few things: petrol, fuel, and ethanol. There's two gases too. We'll get to that in a minute. And these literally turn into ethylene and propylene. Both of them can be burned off, and both of them make plastic. You use magnesium chloride as a catalyst, does not get used up. Propylene and 1 little liter of titanium tetrachloride, and you get your plastic. I can give you a demo sometime of GT6X or processing as it is so far as like a teaser. I actually don't want a teaser. I have been kind of looking at some of the things you've been doing, and I really think that I want to let you get all the way through all the things you're doing, and then tackle that in one long series of shit. Because it's going to be different. Let's put it that way. And honestly, with GT6, 2 GT6s, because I haven't been back to my own GT6 world in 2 weeks because I've been playing with Junior on the server and testing for GTi, playing GT4R, trying to test it out in single player.
You got too many GTs going.
And then Race to Fusion GT4 with that Tamara and I have to still get back to hopefully this weekend and finish that one. And GT5 starting with the group. I have enough at the moment. So take your time. Okay, so propylene and ethylene are literally just used for making plastic. That's their only purpose whatsoever, which is what it should be. But that's the only reason to do cracking, is to get the ethylene and the propylene for making plastic. Now, like I said, there is gases that you can do. You can do butane and propane, the two I was discussing earlier, which gives you hydrogen, methane, ethylene, and propane. But this has to be steam cracked. And for some reason, I'm the only one that ever uses this way of doing it. Everybody else goes with this catalytic cracker because they can use, they don't get anything but the plastic stuff out of it. And because they can use ethanol. And you can make ethanol really early, really easy. You don't need a distillation tower. You just need a distillery and a fermenter. So you set up a, well, not that fermenter, but you set up a fermenter and you make your biomass, and then you throw it into a distillery, screw the distillation tower if you're trying to be quick, and make your ethanol that way. And then you can turn that straight into plastic, and plastic is your key in GT6 to getting to electric. You need it for circuits. So people that want to try to do the GT5 thing of bypassing steam age and getting straight to electric, they use this crap. I don't use it because I don't like it, because the steam cracker gives you so much more out of it. I prefer steam cracking because if you use butane, you get 3 and 78. If you use propane, you get 19 and 42. I don't use propane because you get more of the single one, the ethylene, out of this one. And if you add them up total, you get more out of the butane. Or
okay,
out of
I have a new question. What does cracking do?
Cracking takes a heavy hydrocarbon and breaks it up into lighter hydrocarbons.
Okay.
In GT5u, you actually used a cracking unit in between. So you'd have your light fuel, you would send that into a cracking unit, which would then give you a hydrocracked or steam cracked fuel. And then that you would put back into the distillation tower, and then that would give you, which I don't understand the way they did it here, because steam cracked light fuel should never give you heavy fuel. Because you're literally cracking a lighter fuel, a heavier fuel into lighter hydrocarbons. Heavy fuel is heavier than light, you should never get it out of light fuel. So that's the one issue I have with the way they did it. Everything else makes perfect sense. But there's another thing that people tend to like to do. GT6u poll went through all kinds of craziness. A lot of people don't like to deal with, if they're playing with the harder mode stuff, they don't like to deal with having so many different fuels and having to set up different gas turbines or different combustion generators to make their power. They want one power source. They want to generalize it. So he went through everything he could to get everything turned into methane so he could power his whole base off of methane. Not something you'd ever see me do. I like multiple power sources. That way, if one power source ever runs dry, the base isn't completely turned off. I still have some power coming in. But that's out of the scope of what we're doing. So that's the one change I would do is, if we're doing refinery gas, get rid of this ethane. Either make it ethylene or propylene by itself, or distribute that back into butane and propane, and just give us a steam cracker so we can crack those down to ethylene and propylene, or just ethylene. I don't give a shit. More close to what we have here in GT6. And if you do add the catalytic cracking, which is the hydrogen, put some other shit in here. Don't be a Greg. And don't make it use some weird shit called zeolite dust that is hard as fuck to find to make the stupid thing. So I think that's about what I have to go through with. Oh, no, I still got other ones to do. Oil, we already know oil is fine. The hydrocracking stuff, he basically has all of the hydrocracking and steam cracking stuff pulled straight from GT5u 08 or 09, so that's perfectly fine. Wood gas, I would say, if you're going to do this, this should be a hard recipe only. Wood gas should just be something you could burn if you're putting it into the basics. Heavy oil, we don't really need to look at. Fermented biomass is another one of those things we kind of got to decide if we're going to do this. And the reason why I say that is acetic acid, not needed in basic chemistry. Ammonia, not needed in basic chemistry. Methanol, same thing. Carbon dioxide, ethanol, water, that's fine. And if you're doing it this way, you might as well just do the damn regular biomass and get rid of the fermented biomass. This was only a thing in GT5 09, GT5u 09. So maybe put that to a hard locked recipe. This is steam cracking stuff. This calcium acetate solution shit, I don't remember seeing that with all the things we've looked through here. I don't remember seeing it in any of... It's not a GT5u thing. I don't see it in here. So I don't know where Mermasa or whoever added that recipe pulled that out of their ass. But they pulled it out of their ass from somewhere. Hiding behind a kidney or something, maybe. And by the way, thank you, Boris, for adding Altadon to your name, so now I can remember. I know that's who it was, but I can't say your name without looking at it. So thank you for adding that. And this calcium acetate solution shit does not even have a way of making it. It gives you carbon dioxide, water, acetone, and quicklime. As far as I'm concerned, kick this shit to the curb and get rid of it. Unless somebody can give me a reason for it to exist. Dilute sulfuric acid, fuck you, we have a distillery. Do this in there. I do believe we even have... you can either choose water or sulfuric acid. For the dilute stuff, you could literally put a second tank in here and just give them both. You wouldn't do it for any of the others, but maybe. Who the fuck's going to build a distillation tower for just distilling sulfuric acid back to sulfuric acid? And to be perfectly honest, why would you care about the water? We have a drain that'll suck you up all the water you'd ever want. So even giving a tank for the water, I don't see a reason for even doing that other than we want to keep it consistent with chemistry that you'd have it. So, fuck that the hell out of the distillation tower completely. Steam cracked stuff, we've already gone through that. We've already talked about the water getting fucked off out of here. Wood vinegar, that's charcoal byproducts. We'll talk about that in a minute. Wood tar, that goes with the charcoal byproducts. We'll talk about that in a minute. Hydrocracked, light, steam cracked, acetone to ethanol and methane. Acetone should not exist in basic chemistry. So this would be locked behind hard mode. And this is another thing that, would you really build a distillation tower if you're only getting 2 things out of it? I say 3 is the minimum. You know, if you really think this needs to be a thing, like, I don't even know what this is used for. Ethanol and nitric acid will make tetranitromethane, and that can be used to make nitrodiesel, but you can make nitrodiesel with glyceryl trinitrate or nitric acid. Why do we need that? What the fuck purpose is that? I don't see a reason to even have this recipe whatsoever. And acetone can be used for making bisphenol A, which is used for making epoxy, which, if he ever remembers, is going to be used for making these plates, which are going to be used for making a circuit. So therefore, I say, fuck this acetone shit right out of everything. Don't give it a setting. Just kick it the hell out of here. I don't know why anybody added it. It's not needed. It's in the 3rd slot of nitro diesel. There isn't a 3rd slot in nitro diesel if you're doing... It's not there. Light fuel, glyceryl trinitrate, and not a fucking thing gives you nitro diesel. Light fuel, nitric acid, not a fucking thing, gives you nitro diesel. It is not in that 3rd slot. Biodiesel, nitric acid, not there. Diesel, nitric acid, not there. Why did they make empty slots blue? That's horrible. It's not blue, it's black. all the empty slots are that way. I don't know why they did it, but they did it. I can't remember who it was that did the change for this texture. Honestly, I'm not a big fan of that texture. Having just a grayed background, to me, is a lot better. But we had the same thing here. For if it was empty, it was black. But you have the in and outs. It does kind of suck because you don't have the number in these, which would kind of tell you if there was something there. But yeah, it's not needed. Screw this crap. We don't need it. Dilute hydrochloric acid, same thing as the sulfuric. It doesn't need to be in a distillation tower. Get it the fuck out of here. Charcoal byproducts. This is the other one we needed to talk about. So charcoal byproducts is not a thing in any GregTech. It is not a thing in GT5u 08. It's only a thing in GT5 09. Now, I will tell you, this is one of my favorite things about doing the Pyrolyse oven and getting nitrogen is so I can make this stuff, because I like having all of the different distillation towers and all the different stuff that all the different things put out. But this absolutely should not exist in basic chemistry. This should be locked behind the hard setting for chemistry, which would mean that the wood tar, the wood vinegar, and the wood gas distillation should all be locked behind that harder setting as well, which means that the making it in the Pyrolyse oven with nitrogen should also be locked behind the hard chemistry setting. So that when you put wood into the Pyrolyse oven to get charcoal, you just don't use the nitric acid or the nitrogen. Sugar to charcoal, kiss my ass. You could do the wood vinegar thing with nothing. I would say, personally, just get rid of all of them that take nitrogen and just give it the circuit, and you can choose either wood gas or creosote. That's the only two I would have. The wood tar isn't needed if you don't have all the chemistry that's behind it. Basic chemistry, you're not going to need toluene for TNT. Benzene's not going to be needed. Phenol's not going to be needed. Creosote, well, it's fucking creosote. But you get the idea. You probably use less of the additives in that bear. Sugar to carbon would be better. I agree with you there. That is actually something that Greg does in GT6, is you can do sugar straight to carbon in, where in the fuck is it? It's Mixer, right? Yeah. It's in the Mixer, I do believe. And that's his sugar tea crap. There it is. So sugar and sulfuric acid gives you carbon, water, and sulfur trioxide that you can then turn back into the sulfuric acid. This is how Greg does it, not cooking it. Because cooking it technically should give you caramel. Now, if we're going to set up a Pyrolyse oven that's going to give Bear caramel, I'm all for that. Hell yeah.
Me too.
Come here, little girl. Give me some sugar.
Oh, Bear. Back on topic.
back on topic. So, yeah, I would get rid of the wood vinegar, wood tar, all that shit if you're doing basics. GT5 uses a chemical reactor and outputs oxygen. This recipe does... Oh, that's the giving you heavy oil thing. All right, fuck off. I still hate that thing, but fine. I really don't even think it needs to exist because of the fact that you have oil shale in the world, but whatever. So this is GT for modern versions. Yes, GTi is 118 currently, where I'm holding on to Trinz's ankles and holding him into 118 until he gets it done. At least playable to Fusion. And then he can go to more modern versions. GTi started as a Murmasa project in 110, if I remember correctly. It never got finished. It was laggy as shit, and nobody could play it in 110. Then he jumped it to 112. It got literally nowhere there. He jumped it to, I believe, 116. It got nowhere there. He abandoned it for the most part. Other people tried to take over. They stopped working on it because Murmasa never came back and could be the general, basically, to keep everybody going on the right track. Nobody knew exactly what his visions were because he fucked the hell off. Trinz got tired of me saying that GTi was going to be finished when Minecraft came out with a 2.0 version or Greg finished his game. And I put all three of them in the same category of not before I'm dead. I don't believe any of those three are going to happen before I die. And I don't plan on dying anytime soon. And Trinz got tired of hearing me say it, so he decided to take over development of GTi. Murmasa still never came back, and things got kind of... Trinz got really annoyed with the fact that he, had no control over the Discord, and there was other things. So he basically made a copy of GTi, and he's developing it now on his own. By the way, if anybody knows how to code, he could really use some help. Hook the motherfucker up. But he's trying to get it finished. He wants to go to more modern Minecrafts. I don't want him to until this version is actually done. There doesn't need to be another GTi version that is dead in the water because somebody decided, ooh, Minecraft made a new version. Let's jump to it. Coding for 118 is annoying. I don't doubt that. I've heard Trinz complain about a lot of stuff, and plus, I keep you busy enough with other things. You have other things keeping you busy, and you have your Factorio thing that you're doing, so no, I wouldn't ask you. But once he gets this done, he plans on taking it to whatever the most modern version is, which shouldn't be too difficult to do if he gets the base done in 118. So I'm trying to get him done here, which is part of what we're doing today, going through all this chemistry stuff so he can decide what he wants to keep and what he wants to get rid of, what he wants to put in the easy and what he wants to put in the hard stuff. I've already talked about that. We've already talked about that. All right, distillation stuff is basically done. Let's go look at the chemical reactor. And we're going to go through these 93 recipes. It's going to be a little harder to do in GT6 because GT6 doesn't have a chemical reactor. It's mixed in with the mixer recipes. But we're going to just go through. This doesn't have this is GT5. This doesn't have the new thing. So I need a chemical reactor recipe, which I just remembered what I was seeing here. Why is this in a chemical reactor? This should be in the autoclave. That should not be a thing. Focus, Bear, focus. I'm trying to remember back to GT5 what was actually in the chemical reactor. Dyes, right? Dyes would be in the chemical reactor. Water mixed dyes, I do believe, should be in there. And that thing isn't even working in here. Chemical stuff. It has been so long since I played actual GT5. It's ridiculous. It's been, 10 years since I played this version? Water. Water should come up in a chemical reactor. There. Water mixed dye. That's in a mixer. Fuck. Where's the chemical dye? Read water. Let's just look for... I just want regular distilled water, autoclave, chemical bath, brewing machine, fluid heater, electrolytes, chemical reactor. Fuck, I found it. Okay, 76 recipes here. So many forms of GT5, yet so few of GT6. I wonder why GT6 never got nearly as possible. GT6 did not get as popular for multiple reasons. A, it's not on Curse. More people have probably played GT6u since it got put on Curse than what played the base version of GT6. Because it's not on Curse, and the mass morons will not play anything that's not on Curse.
Hi,
yeah, what she said. Also, another reason people absolutely hate the Crucible. There are so many people that actually played GT5 and GT5u when GT6 came out and had the Crucible. They said, nope, I'm not dealing with that fucking thing. It's annoying and a pain in the ass. You also have the issue of people are kind of set in their ways. If you look at GT4 to GT5, it's a little bit different, but it's not different enough that you can't kind of adjust. It's taking kind of a natural step forward, going from 4 to 5, same from 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. But you look at GT5 to GT6, it's a whole different mod. It's what I tell people when they play GT6. Whatever you learned in GT5, forget it. You didn't know any of that. This is GT6, it's a whole new world. And people are quite stuck in their ways, and they don't want to have to learn to do things new. They just want to do the thing that they're used to doing, maybe with some new recipes in a newer version of Minecraft. So that's kind of where I look at it from what I've heard over the last 8 years doing GT6. I love GT6. GT6 is my favorite version of GregTech. I've been doing it for 8 fucking years. And I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. Because it, like I kind of said in general, GT6 is complex without being grindy. If you want a grindy slogfest, go play New Horizons with Tabusa and Ethrin because they're morons. If you want a whole brand new job that doesn't pay you, go play New Horizons. If you want something that gives you a bit of a semi-realistic feel to chemistry and stuff like that, but you don't want to slog through stuff that's ridiculous, if you don't want to chase the next tier of stuff, which is basically what GT5u and GT New Horizons is
fast track.
Get everything in LV that you need to get you to MV. Once you get to MV, throw everything you have in LV the fuck out and remake it again in MV until you get to the point that you can do HV and then remake all that shit into HV so it's fast, because you gotta have fast. It's gotta be quick and fast. You can't just make 4 of the same machine that'll use less power than 1 of the same machine of a tier higher that'll work half as fast as the 4 together would, which is how I do shit. Which is why I annoy people. I won't tier up my shit most of the time. And then there are idiots like me who miss stuff from GT6 in GT5 and try to implement it there instead, right? So, chemistry. Chemical reactor. This is one of the big things I needed to show Trends was making fertilizer, which we just talked last night in GTi Testing about his fertilizer in his tree growth simulator. I still hate the fact that it's called a simulator. And he's looking at making a different system for how the thing uses fertilizer, because as of right now, it uses the fertilizer basically as bone meal, because you use 1 for every tree rather than trying to keep the soil refilled with fertility. It's just use a fertilizer, make a tree. And I told him it just eats fertilizer way too fucking fast. So he's going to look at that. But we needed to look at some of the chemical reactor recipes for making fertilizer, because he only has ash and apatite. That's it. So here's what we had in regular GT5, which is calcium and sulfur would give you 3. Calcite and sulfur would give you 2. The reason for calcite versus calcium is calcite has oxygen, which is not needed in fertilizer. So that's why you get less. Glauconite and sulfur gives you 3. Glauconite and phosphate give you 3. Let's actually go look at just this one in the chemical reactor so we can get all of them, because there are 50 of them. I don't think we need 50. Like the whole glauconite shit and sulfur, probably not needed. Or the phosphate, but we'll just go through there. Glauconite and ash gives you 2. Apatite and ashes give you 2. Apatite and dark ashes gives you 2. Glauconite, phosphate, 3. Apatite and phosphate, 3. Calcite and dark ashes just gives you 1, because you should pull the carbon out of your dark ash and just use ash. Glauconite, dark ash, 2. Apatite, dark ash, 2. Calcite and phosphate, 2. And since we have a phosphorus apatite vein, the glauconite stuff really isn't needed. We have sulfur coming out of strange orifices. Phosphate and glaucite, or phosphorus and glauconite actually gives you 4. That gives 1. Calcite and phosphorus is 3. To be exact, if I remember correctly, it's nitrogen, phosphorus, and calcium, maybe a bit of potassium and magnesium is what you actually need to do fertilizers. So you could also do like a 3 input, and since this chemical reactor is locked to just 2, you could do 3 and get rid of a lot of these recipes and just do something that's calcium, something that is carbon, or like ashes. You use ashes because of all of the other little shit that's in it. But and phosphorus, calcium, phosphorus, and then like ashes or something to give you that, and that would give you a lot less of these recipes. Anyways, calcium phosphate is 3, apatite phosphate 3. I don't know why these two are in here, because they're the same fucking thing for the most part. There is calcium in the apatite, but if you're using apatite, why would you put it with phosphate? Because what you actually would need was the sulfur or the other stuff. I don't know why that was a thing. Greg is weird. Glauconite, phosphate 3. Calcium and phosphorus is 4. It's one of the better ones. Glauconite and phosphate. I literally just do usually calcium and ash, or ash and sulfur, because you have fuck tons of it, and calcium you can just get from bones. Apatite, phosphorus, dark ash, glauconite. I think you guys have the idea here. I don't think I need to go through all 50 of these. So I'm not going to.
Please don't.
So let's go on to the other ones. So diesel, glycerol trinitrate makes nitro diesel. Love this recipe. Love it, love it, love it. And that is your way of making nitro diesel, by the way. The only 2 differences in the recipes is which one is in a cell and which one is a fluid. So you'd only have one of that. This is the very basic of how to make nitro diesel, which, by the way, we'll get to this later, but I'll show it now. You literally get your glycerol trinitrate from nitrogen, carbon, and water. Makes your glycerol trinitrate. You don't need nitric acid, and you can even pull it straight in a distillery out of raw oil. Greg would actually have probably put this into the distillation tower like he did in GT4, if he had added a distillation tower. Where's my glycerol recipe? Doesn't exist. So that's your only nitro diesel for the basic of basic. You just use nitrogen, carbon, water, and then make your glycerol trinitrate and diesel. I don't know why he went in GT6 to this, and if somebody can tell me how it's pronounced differently, please do, because I have not been able to figure it out yet. But in GT6 he went that one, which is glycerol and fuel to make nitro fuel. There is no nitro diesel. And to make glycerol, you make glycerol, nitric acid and sulfuric acid together, and that gives you the glycerol. It annoys me that he doesn't call this one glycerol trinitrate. He calls it glycerol. Because my hillbilly ass just calls them both glycerol. And it's annoying. And this comes from your biomass in your distillation tower. Everything gets back to the distillation tower. But you get that straight. You can't even make this with nitrogen and carbon. You literally have to get this from biomass. It's the only way of getting it. Because these don't frickin' exist. And this, again, is just the biomass. Anyways, back to GT5. Okay. That's GT6. That's not GT5. GT5. There we go. That's more of that. This is why that recipe is in the chemical reactor, because there's your quartzite and your sodium to give you quartzite gems. I absolutely do not know why this exists, because does Greg let you do that in GT? I don't know, actually. I've never done it. We have a autoclave, which is where this should be. Right there, autoclave. That's the seed, though. Dust in a mixer. Fuck, he does. No, that's seafoam. Hold on. I really hope you guys can't hear these annoying cocksuckers outside with their damn weed whacker. There's only 1,200 recipes in this mixer, so you do hear it. I was afraid of that. Where is the regular quartz? Where's the regular Certus quartz gem? Look at milky quartz. But like, yeah, right there's the dust and steam gives you the thing. I have no idea why this is a thing with the sodium thing. I don't know why Greg did that originally. In here, we have an autoclave. Personally, if you want to do this, why would you ever do it with the sodium? Fuck off to the autoclave where it belongs. If it's an actual thing and somebody wants to dispute my saying get rid of it, let me hear it. That's glycerol, and that's another one of those stupid quartz ones. This is uraninite and magnesium for uranium-238 dust. This does not matter in GTi because we're doing the GT6 stuff for uranium, so that doesn't matter. There's oxygen and nitrogen to make nitrogen dioxide. We'll get to nitrogen dioxide in a minute when we find it. More fertilizer, chemical reactor for making a golden carrot, which should be in a chemical bath with molten gold. That's how Greg does it in GT6. I don't know why in the hell you would do this recipe for making a golden carrot. He did not get rid of the vanilla recipe for it. I guess it's just if you want to automate them. But I still would use the bath, not a chemical reactor. That's not a chemical reaction. That's literally an assembly recipe. Greg, you're weird. And I would like to point out the fact that I have now said, Greg, you're weird. Greg, you did something stupid, at least 3 times I can think of. So for anybody that would like to say that I don't do something because Greg didn't make it that way, can go fuck themselves. I will tell Greg when I think Greg did something stupid. I do it a lot. But I get that quite often. Well, Greg didn't do it, so you don't like it. No. Even if Greg did it, I still may not like it. I have a brain. I can think for myself. Hush it, you woman. I heard that breath. Stop it. It would be a chemical reactor recipe if you used molten gold instead. Okay, I can kind of see that. Fuck, those guys are noisy.
Yeah, I hear that.
I'm muting for a minute. Hold on. As soon as I say that, he stops, and now as soon as I unmute, he starts back up again. It's the one thing I hate about spring and living in a damn trailer park. These fucking neighbors are way too fucking close, and everybody gives a shit about how fucking much their lawn looks nice. He is watching you, Bear. I don't fucking doubt that. Okay, glycerol, sodium persulfate, sulfur, sodium, oxygen. We already discussed the way I would do this, so I would not add this recipe if it doesn't already exist. Which we'll go over it in a bit. What that was. Distilled water from oxygen and hydrogen. Why? Why, Greg? Why? Why would you ever need to make distilled water? And why would you? It's possible, but I don't know why you would do it. And technically, this is a burning recipe, actually. This is where I gotta push my glasses up on my nose. And technically, you would do this in a burning recipe, not in a chemical reactor, because you need a flame. Shut up. More fertilizer crap. Strengthened glass from Railcraft does not matter because we don't have Railcraft. But that's how Greg did it in this one, which would be similar for like hardened glass or quartz glass. Greg would have put it into a chemical reactor like that with molten glass and whatever the fuck you're using to do so with. Calcium, carbon, oxygen makes you calcite. Bunch more fertilizer crap. This is the recipe that we talked about last night. As you can see, it did not remove the vanilla, unlike GTi, which has an issue with that right now. This is the only way to make it in GTi. It was literally just a way for you to automate them. That's hydrogen to make distilled water again. That's the other uranium-238 with aluminum instead of magnesium. Again, with the golden apple, golden carrot thing, use molten and put it in a fucking bath. Bathe your apple in the molten shit. Doesn't need to be in a chemical reactor. More of that crap. Hydrogen and carbon makes methane. Chemical reaction, very, very slow. Takes 175 seconds. That's a GT4 recipe right there. Nitrogen, oxygen, nitrogen dioxide. We already looked at that. That's just a reverse of the other one of which one is in which tank. Sulfur and water to sulfuric acid. Does not need to be there because we actually have the newer way with sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, and sulfuric acid. So that's not something we need to care about. That's self-explanatory. This is more of the same shit. That's another opposite, that same thing. And there you go. That is what GT5 had for a chemical reactor. So that is your basic chemical stuff. Now, granted, I would much rather go with more of what Greg has in GT6 for chemical reactions. But like I said, it's going to be more of a pain in the ass to go through all these because you have chemical reactor is the mixer in here. So anything that is a mixer recipe can be in here or chemical reactions. So as you see, there are 32,435 recipes in here, and half of them are seafoam, construction foam, asphalt, crap like that. I don't know if Trins is adding anything even remotely close to IC2 Seafoam. Oh yeah, times 2 because there's 2 per page, so 64,000 frickin' mixer recipes. But most of this is just making concrete, seafoam, stuff like that. You have red sand and hydrogen fluoride to make hexafluorosilactic acid. This is just anything that is silicon dioxide. If this was in more modern Minecraft, this would literally just flip between all of the different silicon dioxide things. But this is for making aluminum, which we already have in GTi. This is the other one. This is the construction foam instead of the sea foam, because there's 2 different ones. There's the GregTech version, there's the IC2 version. Basically both made almost the same. I guarantee this is coffee, sugar, and cafe au latte, whatever.
Cafe au latte.
And it makes, you want to try that? Latte cafe? Look at the barbecue sauce. Yeah, we'll get to the barbecue sauce eventually. That's seafoam. That's seafoam. You can make summer radish salad from Pam's in here with radishes, cucumbers, onions, and apple cider. It's literally a mixing recipe, so he just throws it all in here. This is his catch-all. Here's his new fertilizer, which is niter, rotten fish meal, and sand. It's going to be a lot of those types of things to make the forestry fertilizer. You also have all of these where you mix a solid dye with water and make the water mix dye. That's green seafoam. That's blocks of concrete. Seafoam. Actually, like I said, there's 64. We'll go through these as we actually need them. Motherfucker, now they're on the other side. Let's go look at the what would be in a, well, hold on. Let's go back a second. This would be GT508. So let's look at the chemical reactor recipes in here, which would be what Bloody added to finish GT5, or what he felt needed to finish it up. So if we do this chemical reactor and that, we only have 40 recipes. This should be mostly the same stuff that was in GT5. We'll see if there's anything different in here. Let me jump back to page 1. So those are things we've already looked at. That's the sulfuric acid. Not seeing anything different yet. Oh, that is one thing. Carbon dioxide didn't even have a fucking use in here. Is there a cell use? Chemical reactor. There it is. How did I miss this one, the other one? This is how you made nitric acid. Was with carbon dioxide, oxygen, and water. Somehow, oh, no, because I looked at, I don't know. But this is how you make nitric acid. I don't know how the fuck I missed that one. Hydrochloric acid did not exist in GT508 at all. I think it was barely even a thing in GT509. But that's where the nitrogen dioxide comes in, is for making nitric acid, which doesn't have any other byproduct, which in GT6 it does. There's that actual nitric acid recipe. We also didn't have Aquariga in this version. This we got rid of completely, which is the old way of making vitriol stuff and platinum group sludge, so we don't need to worry about those existing. Chrome and oxygen for chromium dioxide. And what exactly did we... I have no idea why he added that, because it has no use. I didn't even remember that was a thing. Okay, so that's what is basic chemistry in GT5. So now let's go to GT6 and look at the basic chemistry in here. And we'll just go for methane again, because that should still be a thing we can make in a chemical reactor. That'll get us. Okay, so GT509, the harder chemistry stuff, gives you your glycerol trinitrate, paper, and string to make IC2's dynamite. I think I've already talked to Trins about adding GT6's dynamite. So I don't think that needs to be a thing because, well, IC2 does not exist in this version. C10 boosted diesel. I fucking hate this crap. This is one of the most annoying things that Bloody added, because you need, oh, wait a minute. This one I don't mind. This one uses diesel and nitric acid to make it. This one I like. It's the one that uses fish oil and sodium hydroxide I fucking can't stand. Or seed oil and sodium hydroxide. I hate that recipe. But I hate it because it took the place of nitro diesel, which is just the way I like it. And I think this might actually be my recipe. I do believe... No, this is diesel. This is from oil. This is a diesel recipe. And I do believe it's because this is my recipe. This is not the true... I can actually tell you for sure. This would be this one. Loaded mods. Yep, that's my recipe, nitro diesel fix. Because I hate the C10 boosted shit. But yeah, I had this recipe made so we could just use diesel and nitric acid to make it. The recipe that's in GTi with biodiesel is the C10 boosted shit, and I fucking hate it. This is the way it should be. As the kids would say, fight me. I'll die on this hill, bitch. Charcoal and oxygen makes you ashes and carbon dioxide. If for some reason you need carbon dioxide, we have a cryodistillation tower. This does not need to be a fucking thing. Charcoal dust, coal, carbon. You just don't get the ash in that one. Coal dust. Carbon and oxygen makes carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide for making acidic acid from methanol. Carbon monoxide and methanol with a cell. Hydrogen and carbon monoxide to make methanol. And hydrogen and same. And that's its only real use. And what I hate about this the most is carbon monoxide is actually trapped in making steel and used as a fuel to keep generators running, making electricity to run all of the stuffs. And carbon monoxide in here does not have a fuel value. It should, especially since you're using methanol to make it, if I remember correctly. But it's, or not to make it with it. But it's literally carbon and oxygen. It should have a fuel value. It's a hydrocarbon. But this is another one. I don't know if it really needs to exist, but sure, there it is. Sulfur, hydrogen for hydrogen sulfide. We have the sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide to sulfuric acid thing. So making hydrogen sulfide should not be a thing you should ever need to do. I guess if you want it, it's there. You can do so. Because this is literally only used for making sulfuric acid with oxygen. Light fuel, nitric acid, cetan boosted. Yeah, that's the same thing from where, and there's the biodiesel with it, because fuck you, I hate your cetan boosted crap. That's the charcoal to monoxide and all of those. That's another one of these. We can skip all of those.
I'm getting a headache, so I'm going to go to bed.
All right. Good night.
And take meds.
Good night.
Later, guys.
This is one in GT509 that I understand its existence, but I absolutely hate it and would really like to find some other way of doing it. Because you literally take plutonium-239 in a chemical reactor all by itself, let it decay is what this 300 seconds is, and it gives you 50 liters of radon and plutonium-239 dust. You literally lose none of it. This is a loop recipe. You put this into a furnace, you cook it back to the 239 ingot, you put it back in here, it makes you more radon. This is what I was talking about if you want it to be a slog. This is Bloody's way of making these quantum eyes and quantum stars a pain in the ass to get to. And then the qubit wafer for the circuit stuff. And these are literally only used for HV field things. These are used for some of the circuit shit, which we will have a whole different stream video thing about the circuit changes, because we're definitely not getting into that today. I would absolutely look for a different way of getting radon than this. I would not add this recipe. I hate this recipe. I'm all for things that loop, but I'm not into things that you're trying to show it decaying, but it never loses it, even if it had a 99.9% chance of losing it. That's not a thing in this version, dude. You cannot centrifuge endstone for radon. If you can do that, that is a New Horizons thing. That's not a GT. That's not a Bloody thing. I do believe radon is one of the things that Greg did in GT6, though, from Ender Air. Yes, helium is from endstone dust. And yeah, right there's radon. So this is Ender Air, gives you nitrogen gas, oxygen, CO2, and then you get one thing of krypton, one thing of xenon, and one thing of radon. This makes it way less stupid, in my opinion. And this is something I was talking to Trends about as well, is these laser emitters with krypton. You need xenon, argon, and krypton to make the nanoscale fabricator, and that is how you make all of your graphene stuff. Fine graphene, your graphene wires, your carbon fluid pipes, graphene foil, graphene plates. All of that is made in here. And carbon, where is carbon fiber? I hate the fact that there it is. Raw carbon fiber is fine graphene wire in a loom to make raw carbon fiber that you then put in a loom again to make your raw carbon mesh. And then you compress that into your carbon plate. That is how Greg did making carbon fiber without having to use stupid ass platinum as a whatever the hell bloody chose to do. I don't know. We have an air vent. We have a cryodistillation tower. I don't know if Trends wants to go this way, but I would actually prefer it over the whole carbon fiber thing, which, by the way, the carbon fiber thing in GT5 08 is literally not touched. You literally just throw carbon in a wire mill and you make raw carbon fiber. You put two of them together, it makes the mesh, and you put the mesh in the compressor and it makes the plate. So it was literally not touched. So if he's going to stick with anything, I would go with leave it the hell alone for the basics. What do you mean that don't work in GT5u? I just showed you what it is in GT5u. And remember, there's two different GT5u. Well, there's technically three different GT5us. This is GT508 right here. I just showed you how it's done in GT508. GT5u08. Yeah, screw New Horizons. We're not talking New Horizons here. We're talking 08 and 09. New Horizons is not GregTech. It's an abomination of GregTech. All right, so let's get back to this. Make radon different. This recipe sucks. And then this is the chemical reactor recipe for making plastic circuit boards, which is polyvinyl chloride or polyethylene, copper foil, sulfuric acid. That makes your printed circuit board. There's your polyethylene, and copper foil for sulfuric acid makes your plastic circuit board. We've already looked at circuits somewhat, and like I said, we'll look at them more later. Fiber reinforced, all of these are basically the same thing for different circuit boards, so I'm not going to take a long time looking at them. We'll look at those later when we get to the circuit stuff. This we already have in GTi, which is making rubber, which, by the way, if you want to be very basic about it, and why'd I take basic? Rubber, not Mind Factory Reloaded. Why the hell is that even in here? Rubber, IC2 rubber. Where is the rubber pulp? Damn it. Rubber pulp. Just extracting it is all you do to make your rubber pulp. And then you can literally smelt that into a bar. Or you can alloy smelt it with the plates. And you can also extrude it. So, no, there was no raw rubber in the basic. This is GT5 07, dude. This is the very last GT5 that Greg did. But that Greg did not have raw rubber as a thing. So it's kind of up to Trends if he wants to leave this recipe that we have with the raw rubber as a thing in GTi as basic. I don't have an issue with it being in there for your basic rubber. The issue, and he's already dealt with the fact of making rubber early on being a problem. In here, you didn't need it because you had all of your LV cables were made with wool instead of rubber, which was fucking stupid and was gotten rid of in GTi. So there is this as a not harder, but a better way of making rubber. And I kind of like it. I think it should stay. These we'll talk about later if we ever do anything with bees or crops, and I don't think we will. But this is just being able to get the stuff out of the combs or crops. So we're going to skip all of that stuff, which there is a lot of them. And since forestry doesn't exist in this version, and IC2 doesn't exist, none of that stuff exists without him literally adding them. So we can skip a whole lot of this stuff. Do you have iron 3 chloride as an alternative to? An alternative to what? Circuit board. No. Not a thing. Bloody did not do that. That has to be a New Horizon thing. Okay. Gel toluene, sulfuric acid, make TNT. Do believe that's already a thing in GTi. That's the hydrogen and oxygen thing again. We already talked about sulfuric acid making hydrogen sulfide. This is the desulfonization process for all of the things. So we can skip over those. Chlorine and ethylene to make vinyl chloride. We've already looked at those recipes there. This has already been gotten rid of. Making acetic acid from ethylene and oxygen. The reverse of that recipe. Another one of that recipe in reverse again. Propene and ethylene to make isoprene. That's in GTi. Benzene, ethylene for making styrene. Oxygen and hydrogen sulfide for sulfuric acid. Does need to be a thing for if you're making the hydrogen sulfide by cleaning out your things. Quicklime and carbon dioxide for calcite. Magnesia and carbon dioxide for magnesite, which doesn't need to exist because magnesia doesn't exist unless you're getting it from ashes, and we decided that was stupid and not going to be a thing. Nitrogen and oxygen for nitrogen oxide. Calcite water, that's those things. Benzene, ethylene for styrene. Another one of those in the opposite direction. Propene, ethylene for isoprene. Propene, ethylene for isoprene again. Benzene, ethylene, styrene again. Isoprene again. Styrene again. Methanol and carbon monoxide for acetic acid. And those are all the same thing right there, just in different forms of cells. This is why I hate stupid ass cells. Nitric acid, that's the Bloody's way of doing it with having to have ammonia to get nitric acid, which I don't think should exist as your only way of getting nitric acid. You should be able to make nitric acid with like saltpeter and sulfuric acid. If you don't want to do nitrogen and oxygen and water straight, fine. Give me a second. I got to do an old man break. All right. I'll get back in there in a minute. Sound is off in this one. Which game is it? It has the freaking... It's not this one. It's not that one. It's this one. Ugh. I thought we dealt with this already. Weather is on 2. Shut up. Okay. So, back to where we were, which I gotta get there real quick. Hey, man. skip through all of this stuff, which I'm just trying to get a basic idea of what all is in which versions, because there's so many different ones. And then we'll kind of look through what's in the actual GTi. I got a lot of flipping to do here. Which GregTech do you want to try? There's a lot. You literally have GregTech 1 through 6, and then you have all the knockoffs, extendeds, passion projects, whatever the fuck you want to call them. There are tons. Yes. More complex, less grindy. Okay, that's all the isoprene. Okay, there's the nitric with oxygen and ammonia. Oxygen, ammonia. There's oxygen and vinyl chloride for polyvinyl chloride. That's another one of the desulfonization. That's oxygen and tetrafluoroethylene for making molten polytetrafluoroethylene. That needs to be a thing in the harder one. Oxygen, ammonia for nitric acid and water. Hydrogen, that's another cleaning. Molten polystyrene from oxygen and styrene. Oxygen and ammonia, another nitric acid. Oxygen and ammonia for nitric acid again. Which, by the way, this is the way that it's done modernly, but it doesn't mean that other ways aren't possible. I looked this up a while back, and this is not how they discovered nitric acid or anything, so the fact that Bloody made this the only way is kind of weird. But he basically just wanted you to not be able to make nitric acid early on, because that's how you got the platinum group sludge stuff, I do believe. And you also have to remember, in this version, to get nitrogen, you just centrifuged air. You didn't have to have a cryodistillation tower. So the cryodistillation tower is more of your gate to nitric acid in that way, if you're using the nitrogen and oxygen stuff we talked about a little while ago. But you should also be able to use saltpeter and sulfuric acid. Okay, more desulfonization recipes. That's oxygen and ethylene for making polyethylene, plastic. Oxygen, ammonia, nitric acid again, desulfonization. There's glycerol and nitrogen, nitration mixture cell, which, if I remember correctly, is like the only place you got diluted sulfuric acid and your glycerol trinitrate. So this is a different way of going about it than nitration mixture thing is actually in the mixer, which is sulfuric acid and nitric acid makes that nitration mixture. I don't actually know why you would have this in a mixer. Yes, it is literally just mixing the two together, but they're acids. They should be in a chemical reactor, not in a regular mixer. Glycerol That's that same one. Same thing again. Potassium, oxygen, nitrogen for making saltpeter. I literally don't know why you need to make saltpeter. Strengthened glass is not a thing, so you wouldn't need it for that. Making gunpowder, I do believe. Is there not a way of doing it? Maybe not. I guess not. So, I guess that's one thing you could need that for, is making it, but usually you get your potassium kind of from saltpeter, but it's there if you think you need it for making gunpowder. Nitrogen mixel, that's the same thing. Nitrogen and oxygen for making nitrous oxide. And then the nitric oxide was used for high-octane gasoline cells. With gasoline, ethyl terate, butyl ether cell. I have no fucking idea. I don't even remember seeing this recipe. Nitrous oxide and toluene to make that. Mix ethanol and butane together to make that crap. So we'll see that later, I guess. And that's, from what I can see, yeah, they literally added that recipe just to make this high-octane gasoline. I would not do that. We have nitro diesel already, nitro fuel. I don't think that's needed to make gasoline better. It's fucking weird. Now we got all the fertilizer stuff. The methane thing is still a thing. That's that nitrous oxide, which I would literally just get rid of. More fertilizer recipes. We should have a ton of these to go through. That's a molten epoxy recipe with epichlorohydrin, naphtha, and nitrogen dioxide. This is the one that is deprecated and was not supposed to exist anymore. Because you're supposed to use the phenol A for it now. I actually didn't mind this recipe. I don't know why he deprecated it, but it is a thing that it is deprecated. This is what happens when Bloody fucks off like Murmasa fucked off and nothing ever gets finished. Ethylene to vinyl chloride with chlorine. Calcite, quicklime, and carbon dioxide. That literally has CaCO3, so you're just breaking that down into CaO and CO2. And you're not using any catalyst to do this, you're just... Shouldn't there be something that makes this reaction happen, not just a circuit? That's weird. Okay, hold on. I've got to do a... I got to do a thing. Quicklime, a compound of one atom of calcium and one atom of oxygen, white or grayish white solid, produced in large quantity by roasting calcium carbonate so as to drive off carbon dioxide. So the Encyclopedia Britannica says, fuck off, Bloody, that's not a thing. So if you want to make quicklime, don't do that. Do this. We have a roaster. You roast calcium carbonate. You get carbon dioxide and quicklime. Okay? Got it? Good. Fuck off and go about your business. Magnesite into magnesia doesn't need to be a thing. Because you can literally take your magnesite and turn it into magnesium, carbon, and oxygen. And I don't believe magnesia actually has a recipe other than turning it back into magnesite or electrolyzing it down to magnesium and oxygen. So the only reason why you would ever do this recipe, which isn't a recipe, because again, program circuit, you're not putting anything in here to force this recipe. This again is probably a recipe that should be in the roaster with calcium carbonate or with a with carbon to make it do that. But it's not needed, so don't do it. Sulfuric acid from hydrogen. Yeah, we've already looked at those. Vinyl chloride, that's just another direction. Here's what we were talking about making glue. Acetic acid, methanol, and ethylene to make glue. I literally do not know why anybody would do the glue this way. Yes, it is possible. Yes, it's a way of synthetically making glue, but for fuck's sakes, it's just easier to set up a tree farm with and get it more than you'd ever need out of natural ways. But it was a thing, so, and we do have all the things, so yeah, do it for those people that aren't naturalists and want to do it the natural way. Ethylene, chlorine, vinyl chlorine, already seen that. This is the exact same recipe in reverse. Ethylene and chlorine, vinyl chloride, we've already seen that. That's another one of the same thing with the cells in different places. Same thing for that. This is the other another deprecated recipe, which is the diesel and glyceryl trinitrate into nitrodiesel. This is a recipe that we should have. Fuck that CTAM boosted shit. More fertilizer crap that he definitely needs to add some of or in some way. That's more of the hydrogen sulfide. Molten polyethylene from air and naphtha. We've already talked about this long ago. And we have plastic already dealt with. Sulfur and benzene to make molten polyphenylene sulfide. Which does a whole lot of nothing. It's not used. It's made into a level 1 tool that you would never fucking make and never use. I have absolutely no reason why that's a thing. And I don't know what it is. Let's look it up and see if we can figure it out. Oh fuck, it's too far over here. I'll put that there. Polyphenylene sulfide. I'll see if I can type this. Phenol? Phenol? No. Leave it there. Nylene sulfide. There it is. That shit over here. What the hell is this? Organic polymer. linked by chemical. GTS is used in filter fabric for coal boilers, paper making, felts, electrical insulation, film capacitors, membranes, gaskets, packing. Okay. So it has lots of uses. Is an engineering plastic, high performance thermoplastic. Can be molded, extruded, or machined to tight tolerances. Alright, so it's something interesting that we could use, but I don't believe it was used, because the only thing that it would have been used as would be either the molten stuff or as a plate. And we've already looked at that. There is no other things to do with it but that. So this must have been something that Bloody was planning on adding and never actually got around to. That's styrene and air to make molten polystyrene. That's the stuff we just looked at. We've already talked about plastics, vinyl chloride, oxygen and isoprene to make raw rubber pulp. It's your way of making rubber without having to use rubber trees, which gives you a use for the isoprene, which gives you a use for the propene, and so that's why we need propene in there. And shit, I just went too far into this, so let's go backwards now and see if I can get to where we were. That's the regular. I need raw rubber. By the way, this is something that annoys me. Use sulfuric acid, salt, and dye to make chemical dye in a chemical reactor, but you don't use the sulfuric acid and nitric acid to make the mixture. You use that in a mixer. If this has to be in a chemical reactor, that should be as well. Luckily, we can jump over 90% of these when we actually get here. Where is the raw rubber at? There it is. So that's the one we were just looking at. This is nitrogen, carbon, water to make glycerol. Sodium persulfite. Already talked about that, and I'll look at in GT6. This is a chemical dye thing, which is all of these recipes. That literally don't have a use above water mix dyes or just regular dyes, so I don't actually know why it was a thing. Another deprecated recipe for silicon and epichlorohydrin to make molten silicon rubber. We'll get into the new way of doing it in a minute. Butane into ethylene should not be just a circuit. There should be something you have to put in here to do this. It's literally 1-to-1, and butane is cracked. So this should be a cracking recipe, not a chemical reactor recipe. Propene into ethylene, same thing. That should be in a cracking thing. And this is just turning it back, so fuck off. Butene into butadiene and hydrogen. Carbon dioxide and hydrogen into methanol instead of methane. That's the same thing in reverse we were just looking at. Again, with different cells. Sulfuric acid and ethanol into ethylene and dilute sulfuric acid. We already have this as a recipe for making plastic early on. Hydrogen, carbon dioxide into methanol. Carbon dioxide, hydrogen, that's methanol again. Silicon, methane, and chlorine for polydimethysiloxane pulp. This is another plastic, if I remember correctly. You can just use this for coating wires. I still found these to be really weird because you had to have the polyvinyl chloride pulp and the molten silicon rubber to do this. I don't understand why, but you could use the molten silicon rubber for the low tier stuff just with a circuit. I don't agree with it. If you're going to have different rubbers or different plastics, different rubbers, especially the rubber one, if you're going to have different rubbers for coating your things, just let them do it. Choose your own way. You don't need a better kind of rubber. Technically, for higher voltage, you technically should shield it. I don't think the rubber matters. The type of rubber matters as much as the shielding that you would put in there to keep the heat from melting the rubber down. And technically, the high voltage lines that we have, at least here in the U.S., aren't even coated. They're just up on the frickin' top of the towers and not coated at all. So let's get back into here. That's the same thing, just different way. Methanols again. Butane to butadiene, ethylene to ethane to ethylene. That again should be cracking unit or a single cracker thing. Ours are coated, still dangerous as hell though. Yeah. That one we've already seen. That should be cracking. This should be cracking. All of this should just be cracking stuff. You're literally just splitting it. And it's not a reaction because you're using a circuit. If you have to use a circuit, it's not a fucking reaction. It should not be in a chemical reactor. It should either be in a single block cracker or like GT6 has, or the big cracking unit. Ethanol and sulfuric acid, that's the plastic one again. That's the plastic one again. That's the plastic one again. Propene, that's another cracking thing. That's another cracking thing. These are all cracking recipes here. This one is for getting indium concentrate, which was the only way of getting indium. They decided they wanted to have indium as a thing, but they didn't want to add the ore, so they decided to use galena and sphalerite with sulfuric acid to pull a little bit of indium out of it and give you this indium concentrate crap, which you mixed with aluminum and got a tiny pile of indium dust and a lead zinc solution that you then electrolyze to lead, silver, zinc, sulfur, and water. I still don't believe this is a real thing. If it is, somebody can tell me. If we need to have indium for something, just add fucking indium for fuck's sakes as a byproduct of something. And yeah, that was used for making indium gallium phosphide. That's what we used the indium for, which was, if I remember correctly, used for circuits, qubit, and HPIC wafers. We'll get into that later. I think you could also use it for solar. Was that one of the wire things? Apparently not. But we'll look at that part later. The vast majority, approximately 90% of indium, is isolated as a byproduct of zinc mining. Yeah, so if you're going to have indium, it should just come as a byproduct out of sphalerite or regular zinc. And the weird thing is they actually have gallium instead of indium come out of zinc. You can't even get it out of sphalerite. You can only get it out of zinc, if I'm remembering correctly. We can look at that in a minute. Here's the fluorine and ethylene for tetrafluoroethylene for making polytetrafluoroethylene. That needs to exist. That's the sugar and tiny pile of polyethylene and toluene to make your gel toluene to make your TNT. Washing zinc ore with sulfuric acid is one way of extracting it, I think. Okay. Then we could make it a vitriol type of thing, sort of. Because that's how you would... We could add it as a vitriol type of thing. Just a little different. That's methane again. That's methane and water into carbon dioxide. That's cracking. Should not exist. That's just trying to reverse engineer this shit. Molten epoxy. That's propene and chlorine to make molten epoxy resin. There's your raw styrene butadiene rubber, which is butadiene and oxygen with styrene. This is just another kind of rubber used for all kinds of rubbery things. That's the other benzene and propene. Chlorine makes your epoxy. Same thing, different direction. Sodium and magnesium chloride to small pile of magnesium and chlorine. This recipe doesn't need to exist because the magnesium chloride is in the electrolyzer now. This is from titanium. This only needs to exist if the GT6 style titanium processing isn't a thing, and you're going with the GT5, and you really want magnesium to be used up constantly. GT6 just lets you use it as a loop. Another deprecated recipe for naphtha, fluorine, and epichlorohydrin for making polytetrafluoroethylene. Indium is processed exclusively as a byproduct during the processing of the ores of other metals. Its main source materials are I can't say that word. Zinc ores, which would be sphalerite, basically, where it is mostly hosted by sphalerite. So yeah, so if you want indium, get it from sphalerite. bathed in sulfuric acid. Or put it in the thermal centrifuge. Nitrogen, hydrogen for making ammonia, which I never understood why you would do that. If you didn't like the nitrogen, oxygen, and water for making nitric acid, why would you make nitrogen and hydrogen to make the ammonia? But it was a thing. The bloody did. Sulfuric or hydrochloric acid, some kind of acid to leach it out. Yeah. And then this one, nitrogen dioxide and hydrogen with air to make water and rocket fuel. There's a lot of different rocket fuels you could make, and you literally burn these in the rocket. You don't mix them together into rocket fuel, so fuck off. And it's also a deprecated recipe. Somebody was taking that the fuck out, as it should be. And then we've got the other multi-layer board, which is the regular fiber and electrum foil. We'll get into that when we get into circuits. Ethanol and butene into ethyl. We already looked at that crap. Rutile, chlorine, and carbon into titanium tetrachloride and carbon monoxide. This was how you got your titanium tetrachlorides for making titanium if you did it in GT5, or you did it with the carbon that way. This is how I always did it in GT5. Ammonia, methanol, and chlorine for making rocket fuel. Again, it's actually done in the rocket, and most of these are cryogenic. They're kept at liquid temperatures. So I wouldn't do that either personally. That's another different way of making rocket fuel. This is just another way of making fucking rocket fuel. Aluminum, and we already looked at that one. And then chemical reactor with glowstone, raw carbon fiber, central processing unit to make a nano CPU wafer. We'll get into this when we get into the harder circuits. Same with all of the rest of those. And that is all of the GT5u recipes. Most of what was in here should be in the harder configs. Okay, so let's go to here. You need to shut up and fuck off. Here, I'll just fuck off over here. Because listening to you in my ear is getting rather annoying. I'd rather listen to the cows than the sheepses. Okay, so let's look at the actual chemical reaction things that he has in here, which apparently is not very damn much. There's only 93 of them compared to the 60 million we had over there. But all of the dye stuff is not in here, and most of the circuit stuff is not in here because that's locked behind another config for circuits. Tritium and oxygen to make tritillated water. This is for use in the reactor. This is a GT6 type of thing. I don't know why it's done that way, though. We can talk about it when we actually look at reactor stuff. Again, sulfuric acid, that's your way of making ethylene. Propane, again, or propene to ethylene, this should be in a cracking unit. Ethylene into ethylene and hydrogen. Again, if it uses a circuit, it's cracking. Posted. Okay, thank you. Ethanol into ethylene and acetic acid, sulfuric acid. I don't know why in the... Oh, ethanon? What the hell is ethanon? Tetranitro... Oh, yeah, we talked about this. This is for making that... Yeah, this doesn't need to be a thing. That's the nitro diesel recipe. Nitro diesel. Oxygen, ammonia for nitric acid. Methanol and acetic acid for methyl acetate, which we actually have a way of getting methyl acetate, but sure. Charcoal and oxygen to ash and carbon monoxide. I already talked about that earlier. Semi-heavy water from deuterium and hydrogen. I don't know why you would actually have these recipes, because you should have a way of getting these from centrifuging water. You get semi-heavy water, heavy water, and tritillated water. You shouldn't be... and you do that to get the deuterium and the tritium. I don't know why in the fuck it would be a backwards recipe. So I'd get rid of that shit. Hydrogen, oxygen to make water. Again, I don't know why. Benzene to phenol and dilute. Yeah. So this is chlorine and benzene to make hydrochloric acid and dolorobenzene to make hydrochloric acid. Just use fucking salt and sulfuric acid for fuck's sakes. But sure. That's making phenol with water, benzene. Yeah, that's your phenol for making bisphenol A with acetone. Chlorine, sodium hydride, that's more phenol stuff. Oxygen, phosphoric acid, and benzene for making phenol and acetone. I don't even know why that's in here. If it's a thing, sure. Acetone, carbon dioxide from acetic acid, and quicklime. See, there's a lot of these that are just kind of weird. That's raw rubber. Honestly, it's getting close to time for me to get to Factorio. I'm also hurting like hell and I need to take some ibuprofen. So I'm going to get the hell out of here. I'm not going to go through all the GTi ones. I think with all that I've gone through with the GT5, GT508, and GT509, that should be a good idea of what needs to stay and what needs to go in GTi, other than what is in GT6. But like I said, trying to get through 64,000 recipes will be a pain in the ass here. So we can go over any of those separately. So hopefully this helps out Trends, and he can decide what chemical reactor recipes he wants to keep and which ones he wants to get rid of, and which ones he wants for easy mode and which ones he needs for hard mode. I'm going to get the fuck out of here, relax for about 10 freaking minutes before he calls me for Factorio, and I will see you guys then. Have a good one. Oh, we have an hour to go. Okay, good. I can relax for an hour. Later.